modern day space that we find ourselves in, the social media space, I think that a lot of people have a misconception of them being an influencer versus them just being popular. And I saw this recently, and I'm going to do a video on this. I think if you would want me to do a more concise video, let me know. But the video that I was going to talk about was popularity. Like for a lot of people, how they want this thing to be a popularity contest. And I think that there's also, if we were looking at a Venn diagram, some overlap in somebody who is popular and has the ability to influence, and why that is a very powerful position for you to be in, a king position for you to be in. And then as some of you guys may know, in the dressing room, I'm trying to make sure that every guy who's stepping out is going to step out as a king, a warrior, a lover, and a magician, right? And an alchemist, right? He's going to be able to begin to create his own world, and I'm exploring and learning how to do that myself and passing on that knowledge to you. So I don't claim to be the master, but I do claim to be an expert in certain areas while I'm continuing to master other parts of that framework. So one of the things that like really struck me was recently when I was watching Kai Cenat get arrested for inciting a riot, right? Inciting a riot just because he said, "Yo, pull up, I'm gonna be doing like a meet and greet for all of my fans and all the people who rock with me." And 10,000 people showed up. Not all with the purest and best intentions, but for most, it was just like, "Yo, we want to meet this dude that we really admire and that we like," and so he pulled up. Very popular dude with a high level of influence in the space of just getting some people out. And it's important to understand that there is levels to this, right? As Meek will say, right? It's levels to this dish. Because when you're talking to certain guys, they may be in a space where they're like, "Yo, I am popular. People love to celebrate me. People love to be around me because of what I can bring." But then there's other people that you listen to, and you enjoy their speaking and their intellect and their intelligence, and they provoke thought. They provoke. They elevate, to grow, to develop, to be better, right? And there's an influence there, or they can influence you into saying, "Yo, you need to take the supplement, or you need to start working out." So you have two individuals, whether you love them or hate them. Andrew Tate is a very influential guy. Jordan Peterson is a very influential guy. Eric Thomas is a very influential guy. Now, while Andrew Tate is also a very popular guy, right? Jordan Peterson is a less popular person, but still relatively popular. ET is probably less popular than both of those other guys, and still very, very popular. And so, when you look at somebody like Mr. Beast, Kai Cenat, you see these two guys are very popular. Mr. Beast has more influence in that he can influence you to buy his product, to push a product. Carson doesn't have a product yet, so we can't test that out, but we can see that he can influence people to come out, right? Andrew Tate can have people, can influence people into thinking better or to attempting to be better, to work out, to start eating better, to adopt a faith, right? He's had people adopt a Muslim faith because of his influence, not just his popularity, but his influence. And so then you have somebody like Jordan Peterson, who is influential in helping people clean up their room. Eric Thomas, who has a motivational mindset. So I question a lot of people when they say like, "Oh, I'm an influencer to do this." Why don't you try this on and see how it fits you? Throw an event. If you really think that you're an influencer, throw an event. And I mean, this is for people who have the quote unquote numbers to back it up. So they are the people who have 400,000 followers, right, on social media. They may have 100,000 subs on But they throw an event and 5 people show up that they've been marketing. I'm not saying somebody who just threw something up on a Friday or tweeted about it and 4 people showed up. I'm talking about heavy marketing. Money's been put into it, and they have 1% show up the following that they have. Now, for a person who has 4 million followers, 1% is still 40,000 people to tweet down the show. So I want to be clear about that. But if you're a person who's a micro influencer, you're saying, yo, I got 40,000 followers, and you have 1% show up, it's still good as 400 people. But I would then question your ability to influence. And I'm not just saying it has to be in person, it may be digital. So these are some good elements for us to start testing whether or not we have influence. And I just want you to try this on consciously, how you can construct it in your character and your closet, and then ultimately what that will communicate about you. Because there's a lot of guys, like I said, guys especially, you need to make sure that you're being an influencer more than you're being a guy who's popular. Ladies can afford to be popular. Men need to have a influence. And in order to have influence, you have to have a philosophy, a purpose, and then you have to have a philosophy behind that purpose. And that's something that I've heard from Nathan Keys. That's something that I've heard from, I believe, Joe Rogan, and plenty of other people who are influencing their community. So you have to have a purpose. So if I'm doing a gathering or I'm going to do a live event, there should be a purpose for why I'm holding it. And this is why you're starting to see a lot of uh, quote unquote influencers have these conferences or having these summits because they understand the power of their influence to, in some spaces, indoctrinate an idea into somebody's mind. And indoctrination doesn't have to be a nefarious or evil thing. It can be, yo, you are capable of taking on whatever you need to in order to be great. You're capable of being a quote unquote top G or a high value man, right? There are these spaces and places that are beneficial to individuals to indoctrinate themselves with an idea. Or if you're with Marion Williamson, one of the things that I have indoctrinated into my psyche is that our greatest fear is that we are not. Our greatest fear is that not that we are inadequate. It's that we are powerful beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us, right? And to go through that whole mantra of realizing that my light is ultimately going to liberate others. That's a powerful indoctrination for myself. For some of you guys, the indoctrination of your religious beliefs, right? For the Andrew Tate crowd, the people who have followed him all the way to the fringes have started adopting a Islamic life and how they want to move in that space. For Jordan Peterson, you may adopt a Christian life. For somebody else, it may be Buddhist or Buddhism or Hinduism in those spaces. But you should have a purpose, and that purpose should then have philosophy. A lot of reasons, many reasons why a lot of guys will get into religion and will find themselves to be more religion is because of the philosophy there. So if you're going to be influential, then you should have a purpose for what you're doing. It shouldn't just be like, yo, look at me. And it should not be something that is self-serving. It should be something that is ultimately going to help foster the benefit and the development of others. We as kings are not having, a good king is not seeking to hoard his riches and his wealth, because that does nothing for his people. And the king knows that he is ultimately a servant to his people. He ultimately has to serve his people through leadership, through uh, through legacy, through the development of his philosophies and the vision that he has. So that's a vitally important thing. And when a king is healthy, if you ever get the chance to watch, what is the name of that? The name of the video. It's a great channel. Like stories of it was gonna come. There is a conversation that he has about king, warrior, lover, magician archetypes, and one of the things he talks about with the king is when the king is healthy, when the king is in the best version of himself, he shows up in a manner, and his presence creates abundance for everybody else in the kingdom, right? And so you have to remember that you as a influencer, as a leader and a king, is going to be serving somebody else, and that service is not necessarily going to be free. You have to still move to move it and to build your kingdom, right? So there's going to be a leverage of services and offerings, but you need to understand that you're leading. And then also from that space, you also have to be very strategic about how you implement your purpose. I said for a long time, whether you love them or hate them, and rest in peace to Kevin Samuels, whether you loved him or hated him, he was a truth teller. He was a person who said, "This is my truth," and there were some facts behind what he was saying, but then there was also just some truths that were there that caused people to be uneasy. And so those truth tellings were a space that allowed him to strategically position himself through your average at best, whether he meant to have that go viral or not, make that the springboard to continue to be so brutally honest with men and women that it created a different dynamic for the people that he was engaging with. And that strategy was something that everybody started to follow. Even a guy like Andrew Tate. So now in this manosphere space that we're in, we have a lot of these guys who are quote unquote truth tellers, but then they also are not serving or leading through teaching, right? So you had that you have to be strategic in the influence that you're having through your philosophy and how you're going to utilize your purpose. Then you have to think, how can I connect? Right? When it comes to love, love is not necessarily about tenderness or affection. It's about connection. It's about being able to communicate with somebody in such a way that it resonates with them, and then it helps remain that seed that takes root. So for a lot of guys, if you're hearing, yeah, you are nothing, you always going to be nothing, from a coach, from a person that you find influential, or a leader, or any of those different types of things, you may respond to that negatively. I remember when I was playing ball, my coach used to always just calm down like hard on me. Like we had one coach who would be like, "Man, you playing like a pussy, son." That's not for kids. So you playing like a pussy, son. And that's what our freshman coach used to say. And I didn't ever respond well to that because in my mind, like I'm going after it, I'm going hard, I'm in the trenches, I'm doing what I need to do. But there was some teaching that needed to happen. Yo, son, I'm a freshman, mind you. Yo, when you down here, I need you to put your booty on in a sitting position so that you can box out, right? If we're playing down low. If you're going to set a pick, here's how you set a pick. If you're going to take a charge, here's how you take a charge. And we're going to go over these things over and over again so that it is second nature. And then if I see you shy away from that, I can say you're playing weaker than you actually are, right? But I can't do that if we've done two drills and I'm just starting out and you're seeking to develop me. I'm not talking about a guy who's a man, right? There's some immutable and brutal truths that have to come into the fray if we are in our space of manhood, if we are now obligated leaders because we have children, right? Or because we have a partner. There's a different conversation that needs to be held there. But if we are in these developmental stages of life, then I can't be brutally honest with everybody. I have to be able to connect with my crowd, with my tribe, and with my audience. And so if I'm seeking to be a servant of my purpose and my philosophy to the people who have entrusted me with their attention, then I have to be mindful of that. I have to be strategic in how I connect with them so that we can continue to grow. And in this space right now, we have all these dudes who are these tough guys, and we have to be men and we have to be masculine. And I'm all for that. I actually am a big proponent of that. I'm in agreement. Like, yo, I gotta be tougher. I gotta be more stoic. I have to be more present and engaged and less emotional have to have an awareness of how to connect. And sometimes it is about tenderness. It's about attention and intention. I love one thing that Nipsey Hussle said, God bless the dead, when he said that you should study your woman so so distinctly or in such a detailed way that you can anticipate her needs. And that was a very powerful thing because it was speaking one to relationship, it was speaking two to connection, it was speaking three to understanding, but it was also speaking to attention, tenderness, and awareness of the person without being emotional or being allowing yourself to be a slave to those emotions because you're anticipating her needs, not necessarily her wants. And it's been amazing to watch such an amazing young lady like Lauren London deal with grief and still have those frameworks and that guidance and that leadership and that service and that strategy and that connection that has then done the last thing that a alchemist or a magician will do, which is transformation. She's forever transformed due to that trauma and that event, and even through her healing, she has become a more strategic and aware young lady. And so when we start talking about the influence that you have, that influence should then be transforming you into something else. For better or for worse, Andrew Tate has transformed a lot of guys and made a lot of guys and women better and more developed. Now, that's not to say that he doesn't have some things that he may need to hold himself accountable to. I don't know, but it has made those individuals better. Kevin Samuels made some individuals better. There are so many people who've hopped on and said, I didn't like what he had to say, but boom, 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 boom. And they're transformed. Their thinking has been transformed. Their directions and their actions have been transformed so that they can show up as the best version of themselves. And then you have other people like Jordan Peterson. Something as simple as cleaning your room has been transformative for young people, for individuals, and helping them show up as better versions of themselves. And so, as Cassinet had people shutting down New York, inciting riots, which was definitely going to be huge for his career, right? When you had people who were trying to be around this popular guy and just wanting to be involved with this popular guy, it created a wonderful question. Is he popular or is he influential? Because we've seen both sides of it. We've seen somebody like Kai Cenat who has done very, very hard work, has done something that is celebrated by many people. Him just staying consistent and putting out content and really discovering how to work with those types of people. You have somebody like Mr. Beast who has done some amazing things, right? And creating the amount of views that he has and how he is able to position things that are going to create viewership and popularity, right? And influence into purchasing and sustaining products so that he can help people with his foundations and all these other different types of things. But it makes me question, are you popular or are you influential? Because you can be influential to two or three people. Like Pac said, you may not be the person to change the world, but you can definitely influence the person who will. So, what's more important to you? You being popular or you being influential? And are you being influential or are you just seeking popularity? I want you to try that on and see how it fits you. If you want me to create a more concise or streamlined video, please let me know in the comments, even if it's just one person. If I influence one person to think about this differently, to me it's worth putting it out and into the YouTube sphere and to begin to have these conversations so that we can show up as keyboards and magicians that we're all set to be. So I want you to try that on, see how it fits you. If it fits you well, then be great. Go out, step out, and be great. If it doesn't, leave it in the dressing room. That's what it's right here for. Regardless, I appreciate you. It's always love. It's always up to you to show up and show out in style. Remember that dress is nothing more than the reflection of a man's state of mind. So you, yes, you should always dress to address